All right, Shabbat Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kwadash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, even the elders that came before them that taught us the truth. Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word in truth and in sincerity, the hope of the elect tabernacle of David. From the elder Yashawan, Shalom and salutation, Shabbat Shalom and salutations to you all. All right, so long day for me. I'm getting my work schedule adjusted again as I finish up here. We're going to start at Sirach 12 and 10 and just read. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, or her, so is her wickedness. Though he or she humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou remember at the last, and thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? Salah. So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into the pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. If adversity come upon thee, this in particular, if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first, and though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. Okay, especially that. Anyway, I just read a lot of that, right? Because this is our enemy, and we know. Salaki, bear with me on the. I took a little nap and now I'm awake. This is Lisa Cabrera. I'm not sure when this was. This was a couple of days ago. It came to my memory because Lisa was on the Somalians. She was on the Somalians real hard, and I remember her saying that they were investigated in 2020. Okay, there was a big investigation in 2020. I remember Lisa saying that because that was the first time that they were had a big investigation, and Lisa said that, and it stuck in my head, and it was real strange because at first I didn't think George Floyd was even in Minneapolis. I thought it was somewhere else. But then they had the march in Minneapolis. Well, George Floyd was in Minneapolis. I'm like, George Floyd was the biggest psyop I've ever seen, ever. Right? When they take that thing overseas and got the other countries involved, and I'm like, what does that got to do with a Negro getting shot in the street? So that was a huge psyop. It came right out of Minneapolis. I'm like, okay, well, the people there are strange, like Prince, and they're biracial and they're very left-leaning. We'll just put it like that. So that's PSYOP City because why did they use the George Floyd riots? They used the George Floyd riots to obscure, right? To distract from the fraud that whatever is going on in Minnesota is bigger than Tim Wall, is bigger than him. Okay, this goes to some sort of trafficking, right? Whatever's going on, okay? And what I have to do is I have to do an in-depth study. And right now, I'm just it kind of came to me through the spirit what was going on. The Somalian thing is connected to fraud, but it's not the Somalians' fraud. The Somalians are set up to be the scapegoat when the fraud gets discovered. So the fraud got discovered again in 2020. The fraud goes all the way back to 2013. And somebody is using Minnesota as like a sheep dip, like a washing a laundromat where you wash money, okay? Because there's a bunch of cash going right from Minnesota in these scams, and then that money goes directly when you follow it and you go into Hawala, if you understand what Hawala is, right? And I'm not saying that it's the Somalians that are sending money home to their folks and then it's winding up in the hands of the T words, right? But it's the government. It's Somalians are set up as the scapegoat for whatever operation is going on in Minnesota. So now that we've seen the Somalians and the finger get pointed at them, that means that the investigation came back through. The investigation came back through Minnesota. So what do we see? We see a riot. The woman gets shot in the face. Why? Because they got to hide the fraud. They hid the fraud in 2020. With what? With George Floyd. They used George Floyd to hide the enormous fraud, whatever it may be. It's got to have something to do with the most money flowing out of the United States. Because there's billions of dollars flowing out of Minnesota. And it's not no booty scratching goddamn Somalians moving that kind of cash out of Minnesota. That goes all the way to the top. Tim Walz knows exactly what the fuck is going on. They all know. Kamala knows. Trump knows. And what they're doing is they're using this situation as leverage. Whoever knows about what's going on in Minnesota is against the people, the Trump people that know about Epstein. So Epstein is saying, if you guys don't leave me alone about Epstein, I'm going to let everybody know what the hell is going on in Minnesota. So anyway, watch this and we'll put the pieces of the puzzle together. This is, get this real quick too. 2 Court 2 and 11. The Spirit came to me and told me that this was what was going on. Anyway, 2 Corinthians 2 and 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Okay, I'm going to play Cabrera here. She can go into this guy. He's going to speak, and they're going to point at Amy Bach, right, who's the point person for the fraud, right? When they needed to point at somebody other than the Somalian, they pointed at her and said, the buck stops with her. No, it goes all the way to the top, and it's a whole lot of money, all right? So anyway, the Somalian fraud, right, is way bigger than that. That's just the scapegoat. Somalians are just the scapegoat. Listen to this.
All right, please give me a 1 if you can see my screen.
Now this fraud goes back to 2013. But we're going to delve right here in 2020 when they did one of many inquiries that was hidden and pushed under.
Thank you.
By the government. They're hiding something. It goes way beyond Somalia. So I'm going to just kind of, suss this out. This isn't really the video, the smoking gun vid, but...
Amy Bach, the former executive director of Feeding Our Future, who a jury convicted of facilitating $240 million in fraud meant to feed needy children.
Okay, so they're playing with these numbers. These numbers go into the billions. And see, here's the thing. They knew about the fraud going back to 2013. What they're doing with this Amy Bach, she represents the 2020 fraud. Okay? The 2020 fraud never ended, and it goes all the way up to today. So all the way back from 2013, they've been investigating and knowing about all of this fraud. And even in 2020, when Amy was convicted, right? It kept going. It kept going. It should have stopped with her, right? No. That shit went right up to today. It's still going right now. Okay? The fraud is still going right now. Walls knows about it. If Walls knows about it, Harris knows about it. They all know. This is some shit. They all, I saw a video that said they're all in on it. They're all in on the fraud that's going on in Minnesota. They all know it's a well-known, all the Minnesotans know about it. They all know about the fraud.
Is ordered by a judge to pay back about $5.2 million. Bach's sentencing hearing hasn't been scheduled yet, but the judge signed the forfeiture order.
See, they got her. Oh, she's going to court. Look at when she put on a sweater, look like a little homely. Oh, white woman that just pulled a scam. No, that shit's huge. It's billions. It's $1 billion money operation going, facilitating Hamas and things of that nature.
It's worth noting that the Fed seized $3.6 million from her bank account.
Yeah, right.
That goes toward the $5.2 million total that she personally benefited from the fraud.
So how much money, if that was her cut, how much money is being made way up at the top?
And covered all these cases. I can tell you that is a much higher recovery percentage than most of the fraud.
Hey, we got all the money back. We got all the money. That's the money you're telling us about. Okay, it goes back to 2013. You're just pointing at one little section of fraud.
I'm Lou Raguse. Follow for more news.
So let me give you the Amy Bach breakdown and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the people that need it. For the people that keep comparing the situation to Amy Bach, actually, this is all tied in. Okay, so Amy Bach had a nonprofit foundation called Feeding Our Future. This was a nonprofit foundation that was to feed the children around COVID and provide low-income children and families and people in need with meals, especially around COVID and just in general, right? So nonprofits get funding or grants or et cetera, whatever they're getting from the government or different places.
Get the money from the government. Where'd the money come from? The money came from the government. So the government just doesn't hand out billions of dollars and not know where the fucking billions of dollars goes, because there are checks and balances in place so that that doesn't happen. So when it does happen, whose fault is it? It's the government's fault. So now they're coming back and pointing at the Somalis and saying, you guys took some money from us. No, they only got paid for looking the other way and going along with the program. Those billions and billions of dollars, right, are coming from and going to, somewhere else. That's that the state of Israel gets so many billions from, where does that money come from? How do they get that money? Right? So I'm gonna let her continue to talk.
And foundations, et cetera, right? And then they are supposed to spend those funds accordingly on what they said when they wrote their grant letter or when they got the funds, what they said that the funds were going to be out.
Now she's about to mention so much money that it's way over Amy's head. It's just not Amy, okay? She's going to mention an operation that's huge, and it takes a lot more than just Amy, who ran a COVID scam. All right, that's what they're trying to boil it down. Oh, Amy ran a COVID scam, and we got her, and everything is cool, and we took care of it. No, this fraud goes back to 2013. They've known about it. The whole Amy situation, it went all the way up to there. It's still going on right now. It didn't stop with Amy.
Or if it's not formally written in a grant letter, they have to show what services, what did this nonprofit provide, what did it cover with this, whether that was legal expenses, whatever, but everything has to be accounted for in a nonprofit. So what she did was she basically embezzled $250 million from the government during
COVID. Nah, government knew what the government was doing. Okay. There's an operation going on there because it goes back further than 2020. The operation goes back to 2013. A lot of money's going through that airport.
with her partner in crime, okay, Salim Saeed, okay, who was charged, another Somalian national, and they never fed any children. And so you're asking, well, how does this all tie in, or where does it come to? Well, you have people that are trying to say, well, she did it. No, it was like 70-something people were indicted in that or charged or whatever the case was in that. Don't let me misquote you. However,
huge operation.
In order to get that sort of funding, you would need to have $250 million worth of children to feed, hypothetically speaking, which we know that's not 250 million children, but we know that that would have to be a lot of centers, a lot of childcare places. And if you are saying that you're feeding children across America, you would need to recruit children. There would need to be some sort of ledger, syllabus, because you need to prove where these funds went. So do you know what my hypothesis is? Go down the rabbit hole if you want to. They opened up ghost daycares, paid individuals for their children's information, and got the funding they needed.
The government still has to know. They know when they're being lied to. We're talking about billions, and not a couple of lowball millions that they're tossing around. This goes back to 2013. We're talking about billions of dollars. Let me see if I can find one more little spot about how much money was flying out of a Minnesota airport. Let me see. Bear with me. See if I can find this. A lot of stuff going on right now, so is what it is. Let's see, right here. Millions of dollars in suitcases fly out of Minnesota's St. Paul International Airport, but why? How far does this go back? Let's take a look at this. And I'm going to keep this short because
for 5 months, we're
going to do a greater in-depth investigation because this is big, all right? When you link George Floyd to this fraud right here, why did they have George Floyd, the George Floyd riots? Because they were hiding this right here. Why are they having this riot right now? Because they're hiding this right here. Same thing. Okay? Same thing. This is 7 years ago. Okay? So this goes back to the 2020 fraud. But the fraud goes back to 2013. Okay? Listen.
investigating what appears to be rampant fraud, a fraud suspected of costing Minnesota taxpayers as much as $100 million a year. Our reporting is based on public records and nearly a dozen government sources who have direct knowledge of what's happening. These sources have a deep fear, and there's evidence to support their concerns that some of that public money is ending up in the hands of terrorists. We begin at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, where mysterious suitcases filled with cash have become a fairly common carry-on. It's the morning of March 15th. We're chasing a tip.
Who was the president then? Okay. Who was the president when this was going on? Was it Biden? Was it Trump? Was it Monkey Boy?
About a man who's leaving the country. Our sources tell us he just took a carry-on bag through security that was packed with $1 million cash. You can do that as long as you fill out one of these government forms. We're told these cloak and
The government knows what's going on.
dagger-like scenarios now happen almost weekly at MSP International. The money is usually headed to the Middle East, Dubai, and points be...
Now see this big old Fox News slick thing with the red dot zooming across the United? This is all fucking bullshit. Well, the money went over there. Really? Really, Fox News? Where did the money go? We gotta believe this? Is this the final story you got coming from Fox News? The money went where? We don't have to believe that. We can assume that there's a bigger story and that this is just some fucking bullshit.
Our sources say last year alone, more than $100 million
$100 million going to these people over here. Hey, look over here. Really? Nah. I want to know other things, not just what you're telling me or where you're pointing. There's more.
Left MSP in carry-on luggage.
What we were interested in is...
That's in 2017. So they're trying to blame all of this on Amy. 17 gone. What about what was going on in 2013? That goes back to Monkey Boy. Obama. Okay?
It was going.
The national go-to expert.
What we were interested in is where it was going.
See, this is a Fox News piece, right? We're interested in where it was going. Are you going to tell us where it was going? And that's the final word on that.
He's Glenn Kearns. He's a former Seattle police detective who spent 15 years on the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force until his retirement.
And you are to believe him as we send you in a whole different direction of where the real fat cash is really going. Okay? So we got to believe this.
Outright crime. It's unbelievable.
Kearns tracked millions of dollars in cash that was leaving on flights from Seattle. It was coming from hawalas, businesses used to courier money to countries that have no official banking system. Some immigrant communities rely on hawalas to send funds to help impoverished.
See how, look at the big cartoon and the big illustration, and they're showing you where this money. Really? What if I don't believe that and I believe something else? Okay? Maybe part of this is true, but there's more money and it's going somewhere else. And what is this operation about? Where is it? What does this really go to? Because you tried to point at Amy. Oh, it just stops with Amy. It didn't stop with Amy.
Relatives back home. Kearns discovered.
Look at all of this. It goes on and on and on.
Meant to help low-income families with their child care expenses.
This is a great way to make some money. I think it's kind of that informal word of mouth.
In order for the scheme to work, the daycare centers need to sign up low-income families that
So at any time they could point at, oh, it was the Somalis. It was the Somalis and they were doing this thing. No, it goes above them and then it goes above Amy and it keeps going because there's a whole lot of money coming out of that airport. So I'm going to just end it right here because I got to do a more in-depth study. But the point that is being made, these riots are covering the fraud, okay? The fraud goes back to Tim Walz. Why is Tim Walz resigns? Why is he resigning? Because it's all coming in. $4 days. He's dropping re-election bid. Why? He got to get out of there because it's coming out. Okay. It says, let's just watch a little bit of this. This is about the fraud. It's coming out. And they know.
Well, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year.
This is the vice president of the United States. He was running for vice president. Okay. And these guys got the fraud all the way to. So the truth about it is, Buck doesn't stop at the Somalis, doesn't stop at Amy Bach. It goes directly to the top. Bingo is still going. Amy goes back to 2020, 2020. What's been going on for the last 5 years after she got convicted? Right? Why is it still going on?
Like many Minnesotans, I have to tell you, I was glad to turn the page on 2025. It was an extraordinarily difficult year for our state, and it ended on a particularly sour note. For the last several years, an organized group of criminals have sought to take advantage of this state's generosity. And even as we make progress in the fight against the fraudsters, we now see an organized group of political actors seeking to take advantage of a crisis. I don't want to mince words here. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and in St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place. They want to poison our people against each other by attacking our neighbors. And ultimately, they want to take away much of what makes Minnesota the best place in the country.
He's fully reading. This dude been doing this for a long time, and if he was sincere about anything he was saying, he'd be able to say it from his heart and from his chest. He's reading every lie, and depending on that fucking cue card to tell these lies.
Raise a family. They've already begun trying to withhold funds that were meant to help families afford child care, and they have no intention of stopping there. Make no mistake, we should be concerned about fraud in our state government. We cannot.
That's somebody else's money going to do these different things, right? Trump is like this. I'm getting my hands on. I'm coming in. I'm getting that. I'm gonna get that money wherever that money is coming from. Whatever, trafficking, whatever, wherever it's coming, whatever, whoever's generating that cash and sending it to wherever. That operation, people know about.
Effectively deliver programs and services if we can't earn the public's trust. That's why over the past few years, we've made systemic changes in the way we do business. We've gone to the legislature time and time again to get more tools to combat fraud.
To combat fraud. No, this is what this whole place is about. All right, people are living off of that operation. All the way to the top. So somebody's pockets are being like, we're talking about billions of dollars that have been going on for years. Let me go back one. Let me see, Salah.
For 5 months, we've been investigating.
Let's take a look at these. Look at this, 12 days ago. So this goes back how many? 7 years ago, right? Remember we looked at this? And them bags of money leaving the airport, right? 12 days ago. Nick Shirley is supposedly the guy that's pointing at the Somalians and saying, but he's as guilty as they all are. Everybody in Minnesota is getting paid off of fraud. Been going on. It's a way of life down there. This was reported 7 years ago, and it's still happening. That's why 100,000 a year politicians are multimillionaires, while your taxes, 7 years later, insane. This aged horribly. They did nothing to stop it. Look at this. Minnesota has a massive fraud problem, stealing from taxpayers. What the fuck? This is insane. 9 days ago. This goes back 7. So people are coming back to this now that they can see in hindsight, right? The irony that we are funding our own T attacks is sickening. Tired of this, start the arrest. Oh, you talk about going back to 2013? Look at this. Look at this fraud. It's more than just, the Somalians, they're the scapegoat. Americans can't get free child care. Yeah, because they're using it as a scam. This massive fraud is happening under the watch of Walls and AGL. It goes all the way back to 2013. How has YouTube kept this suppressed? It's not just Minnesota taxpayers everywhere. Hope these people are being watched and followed until enough evidence. Man, right? So we see what's going on here. It goes all the way back to 2013. That's the thing. It says 13 years ago they exposed the daycare fraud. Okay, but they're still running that fraud. They're still getting money, and that money's still going in bags, cash, out of the airport. All right. So let's go back here real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and I have to do more to connect it to George Floyd. Okay, why are they having? When you understand the magnitude of the fraud, and it's about to come out at the top, not just the Somalians. Okay. When you consider that, you understand that that's why they did George Floyd, to cover this up. Now they're doing George Floyd again. Why are they doing George Floyd again in the same place? That's where they do this. That's where they do this particular psyop, right? We gotta get that riot going on and erase everything, right? That's what they did. They were able to distract, and shit went away. They're still, whatever scam they're doing, they're still doing it. All right. 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. This guy's got one play in his playbook. Okay, so when you see him doing it, right, that's what he's doing. When you see a riot in fucking Minneapolis, it's George Floyd. What were they covering in George Floyd? Scams, fraud. Okay? It's just a psyop. And we'll go back and we'll bring out greater and further information. All right? With that, we hope that the elect ratified. Your brothers and few sisters, Shabbat Shalom.